Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. If you're new, it's so good to have you. Today's video is going to be everything you could possibly need to know about having a C-section. And that's because I've never had a C-section, but my friend Jenny here, who I'll introduce in a second, is about to have her sixth C-section. So if ever there was an expert on C-sections, it is not me, it is her. I want to help prepare you for that time, for the time leading up to it, for the recovery from it, and even if you are just a friend of somebody who is having a C-section, we want you to be prepared to be able to help them recover properly. Before I begin, if you, hold on, what am I supposed to say? Oh yeah. For one, okay, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can join us on Facebook. We have an awesome group, private group. You request to get in, answer the questions. Parents who are supportive and kind, and if they're not, we have them leave. And if you want more of my family, you can follow me on Instagram. And thank you so much for shopping the business, the Very Good Mothers Club. We are so grateful for all of you who are buying from us and funding our little family so that we can stay alive and keep making this content for you. Today's video is very special for me because she is very special to me. So this is Jenny. She is more like a sister than a friend, but she is a friend technically. And her babies are my god babies. Her husband I love like crazy. I met them in Thailand. We met 10 years ago. And we just fell in love there, and then we all worked together here in Los Angeles and have lived near each other aside from when I was in Spain the whole past 10 years.
Yeah.
And so Jenny, this video is not a partnership with anybody in particular, but I would love for you guys to know about what her and her family do so that if you want to partner with them, you can. So before we jump into the C-section stuff, will you just tell them who you are and how they can be a part of the work you're doing?
Yes. So, like Jess said, we met 10 years ago. I think it was 19 days later. We packed our car up and moved down to Los Angeles. We had one baby at the time.
Lily. You've probably seen her on my stuff.
Yes. And we knew that we had a heart to work with at-risk youth and to work with anti-trafficking. And so we do prevention work with at-risk youth or trafficked youth. We do outreach on the streets of Los Angeles. We go into some of the areas that are not very glamorous or that people are really afraid of. We reach out to those who are being sexually exploited on the streets. And then we just launched the next phase of our organization where we're working with re-entry. So survivors that have come out, gone through safe homes, we want to help them have jobs, learn how to thrive in life. So make a budget, learn how to play with your kids, how do you get healthcare, what if I want to go to college, all of that kind of stuff. We just launched a coffee shop in the San Fernando Valley.
If you're local, you should go.
It's called TK Coffee, and it's partnered with Justice 180, our organization.
Yeah, I will put all of that below, and I will be so happy to see you guys connecting with Jenny and the awesome work that they are doing. And now for C-sections. Why so many C-sections? What happened?
Robert and I have known each other since we were 13 years old. I've had a crush on him since like the second I saw him. We didn't start dating until we were 18. We knew that we wanted a huge family, and 5 was always the number. So, surprise number 6.
Bonus baby.
I was that mom with the first baby that was like, I have the best doula. I'm gonna do things so naturally. I have all the oils. Like, everything's gonna be so great. I had a birth plan that was more of like a birth book. And when I brought it to my doctor, she was like, that's so cute.
How old were you at that point?
I was 21.
21 with her first baby.
Yes.
Okay.
And before that, we had had a lot of loss. And so we didn't think we could have kids. Yeah, we'd have miscarriages. I had had 2 before that. Wow. I have had 5 in total.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in labor. We're in a Quiznos. Am I allowed to say Quiznos?
Yeah. Go for it.
All of a sudden, I'm like, wait, these feel like they're maybe 2 minutes apart. We should probably get to the hospital.
Were you at 40 weeks for that one?
I was at 40 weeks and 2 days.
Okay,
yes.
wow.
Got to the hospital and they're like, wow, she's gonna start pushing any minute. I was pretty healthy. My pregnancy had been hard, but there was no indication that anything was wrong. Within about a half hour of being there, they checked me and they were like, you are not progressing. Like, everything in your body seems like you're in that transition, getting ready to push phase, but you are not dilating at all.
Like, were you still 0? Like,
I was maybe, they were like, maybe 1.
No way.
Yeah. In an instant, they're like wheeling me back and they're like, I'm so sorry. You don't have any time to process. We're taking you back right now. We don't know if the baby is going to be alive when we take her out. Her heart rate has skyrocketed and she's panicking. We need to get her out now. Robert is like, what is happening? I'm like, this is not the plan. Not only that, but there was a surgeon on call that was notorious for jumping to the conclusion of C-section. So I was very, very vocally grumpy about it.
Sure.
As they're wheeling me back. And they pulled me in and it wasn't even like it, I mean, I don't even think I fully had everything on that was like, I didn't have a cap on or anything. Robert was like running in and within seconds, the baby's crying. She had become tachycardic and her heart rate had skyrocketed and her blood sugar was low. She was born with a fever. So it was just an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you know then that you were going to need every other baby to be a C-section delivery as well?
No.
Okay.
I'm way too stubborn for that. So I actually revised the birth plan to say I was open to another C-section.
After the C-section.
A couple years later, I found out that I was pregnant with our daughter Ella, and I was planning to do what they call a VBAC, so vaginal birth after C-section. Again, I went in labor, and after hours of being there and having consistent contractions and seeing like I was in labor, I just wasn't dilating again. And they were like, "Hun, I don't think you dilate."
Wow.
And I'm like, is that a thing?
Right.
So yeah, after that, it ended up being, we just knew that's how our babies were going to be born.
Okay. So let's talk about what goes into a C-section for people who don't know.
Yeah.
And just sort of like, for you now, you know you're going to have one, so you're going to prepare. Some of the viewers are in the same situation. They're preparing to have one. Others are going to be in more like the emergency type situation. Probably. I have been in the room when the doctor decided that a friend of ours was having an emergency C-section, and it's a really scary experience. For sure. From what I saw.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to prepare people as much as possible so that if they find themselves in that situation, they can at least know, okay, this is what I'm about to do. This is why it's good.
Being on the knowing side of things now is a lot easier. I can now prepare. Like, I'm like, this is when I'm supposed to have a baby. Now, my babies have been coming earlier and earlier, so I haven't actually made the C-section date in a really long time. But it is easier to know, like, this is when it's happening and I can have everything in order. And so that's nice.
Yeah, that's so nice.
But I think there's a lot of mental preparation you can do before, and I think you need to do it just with birth in general.
Sure. C-section day. What does that look like? You have a C-section today at 2 p.m.
Yes.
Can you eat before it? What do you wear? What do they do?
Yeah, so here's the deal. You're not supposed to eat before you have a C-section. I always have a little snack because I know I'm in for the long haul. To keep in mind, don't eat anything that you're not willing to have come up, because the meds that they give you make you nauseous. Sometimes you throw up. And so like, say I was delivering at 2, maybe I'd have a little snack at 10.
Okay.
Something like that. And then you show up early because there's always more paperwork. So I make sure everything is packed beforehand. I don't leave anything to the last minute because
so you have your hospital bag ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready. And I usually do it a couple weeks beforehand, just in case, because just because you have that magical date doesn't mean you're gonna make it.
For her, she hasn't made it lately, so weeks in advance is the way to go.
Just being ready, because when you wake up that morning, there will be nerves.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to add to that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just making sure you're in something very comfortable.
Okay. When you get there, you change into
you
a hospital
change,
gown?
but you still like
Want to feel good.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
even psychologically, just being comfortable is so important.
Yeah.
And so,
And then what is the process? Because I don't know anything about this. They
So,
give you
yeah.
medicine?
you get in, you
Okay.
check in, they do blood, they hook you up to antibiotics and an IV
Okay.
right away because it's so important that you're very hydrated. Oh, another thing, I always shave down on the site because if you don't,
Yeah.
they're going to shave you.
Oh.
And they are not going to use a beautiful, nice razor.
Okay.
They're going to use
Whatever.
a really cheap,
Okay.
like very cheap, not very kind razor.
Okay.
I always take care of business before
Yeah.
I go.
Okay.
And they're always like, wow, thanks so much,
So
hon. And I'm
groomed.
like, great, don't touch it. They put your adorable little cap on.
Okay.
And you're in your gown.
Okay.
They put some nice little socks on you. You have to give urine, all of that stuff.
Do you have a catheter or no?
And then they put a catheter in as well. But they have you empty first. They just kind of make sure that all of your stats are good.
And this is if it's not an emergency situation.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, are they doing all of these things very quickly?
Very fast.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
Okay,
yeah.
so probably so quickly that, at least the one that I witnessed, there was not a lot of explanation.
No.
And that's okay. But this is probably what's happening. They're just a bunch of hands doing it all at once.
Yeah, so they'll actually bring in extra nurses and
Yeah,
stuff, and this one will be doing IVs, this one will be doing catheter, and they do try to communicate
Sure.
as they're going. They're wheeling you back and you're signing papers.
Yeah.
If you are allergic to latex or even have a sensitivity, please tell them. I have had them almost do a latex catheter. When I had Lily, I was in the hospital, and the girl next door, I could hear her crying for days because they had given her a latex catheter. So every time I go in, I'm like, I'm very allergic to latex.
You are?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
While they're prepping you, is your husband getting in a gown and cap
Yep.
as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most hospitals say you can have one person with you in the room. And so if you do have a doula, which I do suggest, like if you want to have a doula during a C-section, it's great.
Cool.
But you will have to choose like spouse or doula. Some hospitals are really flexible. The one I deliver at is pretty flexible, and so
Except for right now.
COVID
COVID is going to make it probably, depending on where
Yeah.
you live, where it's one person.
Yes. So in the past, what they have done is they have said, your husband comes in when he leaves, then your doula can come in. But I'm pretty sure that this time around, it's going to be
One.
husband.
We have the same doctor,
Yes.
and we love her so much.
She's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, then they take you back in the room. It will be freezing. It will be so cold. And they do that to keep it a sterile environment, which in the beginning you'll be shivering and miserable and being like, oh my gosh, it's cold. But once the meds start hitting your system, you're going to be so thankful that it's cool in there because you just get hot.
Okay.
Then they have you sit on the table, and it feels very surgical. Like if you've ever had any type of surgery, it's a normal surgery kind of room. You will have to get either your spinal or your epidural. Be aware if you are allergic to anything, and also please be aware if you have a resistance to pain meds. With my third daughter, I did have resistance to pain meds, and so I had to make sure that they gave me the right thing and that they did it. They gave me a higher dose.
The story that she would tell here, but we won't tell
Yes.
you, maybe we'll save it for another video, is that it was basically not done correctly.
Yeah.
And so it was a very painful C-section. So that's why she's telling you to
Yes.
really communicate with people. Are your pain meds working? They need to be
Yes.
working.
Yeah, so I've been in a hospital that was not the best, and I've been in one that really phenomenal. But either way, the nurses were so nurturing in that moment. Like
Good.
they had a heart for what they were doing. Even things like they'll say, lean into me as you arch your back, and we put this spinal in, or things like that, and listen, go for it. Like absolutely lean all the way in, arch that back as much as you can. It will just help make it a smoother process. So then meds kick in, they will lay you back, and they will put up a big sheet from about here down.
Okay. Her husband is up here, I guess?
Yes, he will.
Okay.
Yeah,
Was
Robert
it- do
did.
they not watch, or could a
They
husband
they
or
could
partner
watch. So yeah, They can watch if they want to. Robert accidentally saw one time and he was like, that was traumatizing.
Okay. So have your partner not watch if they can't.
Yeah, if they're like really into science or they are a medical professional, they can request a look. But yeah, I don't suggest it. They actually have to move your organs around, and there's certain things they set to the side and things like that. And so with that, you don't. Robert's like, listen, I understand the saying that you are just as beautiful on the inside as the out, but let me tell you, no. And I've also heard of husbands just straight passing out.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm the one open here. Get it together. After you lay back, they'll put oxygen in your nose. You may feel woozy at that point. If you start to feel nauseous, tell them right away, because they'll have you turn your head because they don't want you to choke on your vomit. That is disclaimer, that is why they tell you not to eat beforehand, because they want to reduce the risk of choking. Then they will bring they'll bring their little tools and they will poke, and if you're not numb, tell them, I can feel that still. So you'll feel the pressure of it, but you should not feel any type of pain. If you feel pain, then you say, I feel pain. There's some parts that you should not feel anything, and you should tell them, like, should I feel that at all? And they'll let you know. They'll make sure that you're completely numb, and then they will come in, doctor will come in, partner will come in, and they will check and make sure you are ready to go.
Can you show us where?
Yeah.
You don't have to show us the scars, but like where?
Really
roughly?
low. Really low. Okay. Yeah. So right at the pubic bone. So very low. And so I was telling
hers
Jess,
can be covered with a swimsuit.
Yeah, most people can. They're going to, they kind of take pride in it, you know, so they take pride in the ability to hide a scar or have like a very thin, almost non-detectable scar line. So that's what the goal is.
Scar, right?
Yeah, I have one scar, even on my uterus. Like when they do the ultrasound, there's one scar. Again, our doctor's the best. So they'll begin to cut through different layers, and the whole time they're doing the surgery, you do feel pressure. So it is the weirdest sensation.
And you're awake, and are you like loopy?
You're awake. You're not super loopy because the adrenaline.
Oh, okay.
Because there's this battle of adrenaline. And I think that I always feel really nervous.
Okay.
Before having babies, surgery was my biggest fear. To the point where there were surgeries I was supposed to have because of sports injuries, and I was just like, I'm not doing them. Like, I was terrified. So I always get the jitters. But I think just even communicating that ahead of time, if you have a real fear with that, with your doctor, whether or not you know you're going to have a C-section, be vocal, communicate, and that way they're aware of that going into it.
How long does it take usually?
It honestly, it only takes a few minutes to actually do the surgery. So when they have time, so they will open you up, they'll move things to the side, they'll take the baby out. Baby will not cry right away. So there's the whole process when you do a vaginal birth of the baby's being squeezed and all of this stuff, and usually the baby cries pretty quickly. They usually have to stimulate the baby when you do a C-section, and so like a little pat on the bum or massaging after they take the baby out, because the baby's like, whoa, this was there was no process here.
Like a squish.
You're right. Yeah. So if you hear a delay, you'll feel them take the baby out. There will be a delay because I know that in the beginning I was like, why isn't the baby crying? And then they will offer whoever's with you the chance to cut the umbilical cord. So doctor has to cut, but then they can trim it. Then they will take the baby, they'll towel baby off, but they bring baby, as long as baby looks healthy, they'll bring the baby right over to you. You cannot hold with your arms.
Because you're on drugs.
Yeah. So some people, if you are like flailing around, or you're grabbing at your stuff, or you're having real signs of anxiety, one, they can give you anxiety meds. I always have those. They have offered to knock me out, but for me, I've always been like, I want to hear the baby cry. So I've never chosen to do that. But they come and they bring the baby over, and they'll put the baby on your chest. Your partner will be next to you, and it's still like, I know that the idea of not like holding or breastfeeding right away can feel emotional for some, but for me, I don't even care in the moment. I'm just like, there you are. You're beautiful. Cool. You're amazing. And it's always just such a special moment. So, yeah.